Nobody becomes a champion in the moment they win. That moment is just the announcement. The making happens somewhere else, somewhere quieter, somewhere harder, somewhere most people never see and fewer still are willing to stay. The making happens in the gap, in the practice that no camera films, in the repetition that has no audience, in the session after the session is over, when exhaustion has already given everyone else a reasonable excuse to stop, and the champion stays anyway. Not because staying feels good, but because the standard they have set for themselves does not negotiate with how they feel. It happens in the loss that breaks most people and makes others, in the injury that ends careers and reveals what other people are made of when careers end, in the dark, grinding, completely invisible middle stretch of every meaningful pursuit, where the glamour of the beginning is gone and the celebration of the end is not yet visible. And all that is left is the question of whether you are willing to keep paying a price that nobody is watching you pay. That is where champions are made. And if you are in a moment right now that fits that description, if you are in the gap, in the grind, in the hard, invisible middle, then I need you to understand what that moment actually is. Not an obstacle, not a test you are failing, not evidence that you are not built for this. It is the making. You are in it right now. And today, I am going to show you 3 people who were forged in exactly that place. Welcome to Motivation Daily.
Think about Muhammad Ali. Not the fights everyone remembers, the rumble in the jungle, the thrill in Manila, the Foreman knockout. Think about the 3.5 years that preceded his return to boxing. In 1967, Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title and banned from boxing for refusing military induction on conscientious grounds. He was 25 years old and at the peak of his physical capabilities, the exact years that an athlete's body is most capable of peak performance, and they were taken from him. He could not fight professionally. He could not compete. He watched his title change hands. He watched other men occupy the position he had vacated not by losing, but by standing on principle. He trained anyway. He stayed sharp anyway. He maintained the discipline of a champion during 3.5 years when there was no competition to maintain it for, no title to defend, no audience to perform for. He was building in the dark. And when the courts finally returned his right to fight, he came back. Not diminished, not broken, not a shadow of what he had been, and proved that the years of invisible maintenance had kept something intact that the ban was designed to destroy. The making did not happen in the ring. It happened in those 3.5 years when the ring was taken away.
Now think about Novak Djokovic, the most decorated tennis player in the history of the sport by Grand Slam titles. A man whose dominance of a game already populated by 2 of the greatest players who ever lived, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, required not just talent, but a level of physical and psychological preparation so extreme that it reshaped what professional tennis players understood about their own capabilities. Djokovic grew up during the NATO bombing of Belgrade in 1999, practicing tennis in an empty swimming pool because the courts were too dangerous. He did not have the resources of his rivals. He did not have the infrastructure. What he had was the decision, made in circumstances that would have broken most people's relationship with ambition entirely, to keep training, to keep building, to keep treating the present difficulty as the making of something rather than the undoing of it. He changed his diet, his sleep, his mental preparation, his approach to every element of performance that most players considered secondary to the technical game. He built a champion in the gap between where he started and where the game told him was available to someone with his background. The bomb craters were where the champion was made.
And think about Serena Williams, but through a lens entirely specific to this conversation. Think about her return after giving birth to her daughter Alexis Olympia in 2017. A birth complicated by a pulmonary embolism, emergency surgery, and a recovery so difficult and so prolonged
that she has described feeling for the first time like her body was not her own. She came back to professional tennis not with the certainty of a champion who had merely been away, but with the specific vulnerability of a person rebuilding from an experience that had genuinely tested whether the champion was still there. She lost matches she would previously have won. She played at a level below what the world expected. And in every one of those losses, in every one of those sessions that were harder than they should have been, she was being made again. Not for the first time. Again. The champion was not restored. She was reconstructed. And the woman who walked onto the court after all of that carried something that the pre-motherhood Serena had never needed. The proof that the champion in her was not circumstantial, not physical, not dependent on her body being at its peak. It was structural. It was who she was, and it survived everything that tried to take it. Here is what I need you to take from those 3 stories into the rest of this day. The moment you are currently in, the difficult one, the invisible one, the one where the making is happening without the announcement, is not a pause in your journey toward becoming a champion. It is the journey. The gap is not the space between who you are and who you want to be. The gap is the construction site. And every moment you spend in it, every session, every repetition, every decision to stay when leaving would have been so much easier, is a brick in something that will eventually be impossible to take apart. Champions are not born in the spotlight. They are made in the dark. You are in the dark right now. Keep building. Share this with someone who is in the invisible making phase and needs to know that the gap is the construction site. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We show up every day in the dark with you. Drop a comment and tell me, what is the invisible work you are doing right now that is making the champion in you? Name it. That naming is the acknowledgement that the making is real. Let's go.